Welcome to the Literature Lounge, where writers and authors share their stories behind their stories. With over 700 books edited, my God, oh wow, ghostwriting and credits for top founders and celebrities, and a community driven mission, Tara is one of the sharpest minds shaping content and culture today.
I think of myself as sort of a creative companion, and my job is to really help the author achieve their vision. I'm trying to create a little bit of a pathway for you, which we didn't have. I think books are a great way to build your personal brand versus vis-a-vis, just a lot of social media content, because a book is something which distills all of your content, all of your ideas in one place. It's an immediate legacy builder. I'm not discounting social media. You put something and it disappears, but a book is more timeless in that way.
Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Tara Khandelwal. She is a powerhouse in India's creative ecosystem. Tara, celebrated editor, founder of Bound, host of popular podcasts, Books and Beyond, and mentor to hundreds of aspiring writers and content creators. With over 700 books edited, my God, oh wow. Ghostwriting and credits for top founders and celebrities, and a community driven mission, Tara is one of the sharpest minds shaping content and culture today. So, we are very, very keen to dive into Tara's world. And the first question that comes to my mind is that you've edited hundreds of books across genres and ghostwritten for thought leaders. So, from your lens, what are the most, the essential ingredients that make a story not just technically sound, but also emotionally and structurally resonant? So the structure part is something I think a lot of aspiring writers would love to know from you, Tara.
Thank you so much, Mahua, for having me on the show, and thanks a lot for the really nice introduction. Very happy to be here and speaking about books and all the things that I like to do. So, in terms of structure, it differs in nonfiction and fiction. So, when it comes to nonfiction, you'd always need a central question, a sort of a thesis statement, something, a new contribution you're putting out into the world. So, if you're an expert, say an expert nutritionist, and you have a different way of looking at things, and you're adding to information that's already been put out. So, we see this a lot with business books. Um, or if it's sort of like a biography, then obviously, the emotional resonance. So one thing is definitely, having a very clear USP. See all the books that are out there, especially if it's nonfiction, and really ask yourself what is the new contribution or the new concept. The second thing is the emotional connection. So a lot of times in nonfiction, we tend to give a lot of information, but that's not what the reader is looking for. The reader, no matter who they are, is looking to be entertained as well as get new information. So we
Okay.
need to pepper all this information with anecdotes, with examples, with personal stories, all of the things that make us human, because we are people and we relate to people's stories. So that's how information also needs to be couched. So I would say in nonfiction, those are the things. And then obviously a very clear structure, because structure matters. And the fourth thing is that if there are any insights or new things that you're putting out, it should feel earned. It should feel like it's earned wisdom. It should not feel like, oh, this is something that a chat GPT can write, or I can just Google this information. But it should be earned in a way that takes from your own personal experiences, or, from your work life and examples from there. So those are certain things in nonfiction. And in fiction, I would say the narrative arc is super important. And there's always two things I look for in books. Is it unique? And when I say unique, it doesn't have to be a whole new world like we have in science fiction and fantasy. But is it unique in its approach, or is it unique in the way that it's talking about a relationship? Or is it unique in the way that the characters are put forth? Um, and the second thing, or is it unique story? And the second thing I look for, is it universal? Again, appealing to
Yeah.
those human emotions, those themes that we all relate to. And that's the thread that keeps a book going.
So, you know what? I would be very, very interested for you to make our listeners walk through the entire editorial process, right? What are the first things that you notice, and how do you approach, reshaping a manuscript, which isn't easy structurally and emotionally? You're actually working on somebody else's work. So, can you share your process of taking the draft from good to great?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun working with someone. So I think of myself as sort of a creative companion, and my job is to really make the author's vision to really help the author achieve their vision. So the first thing that I do when I get any manuscript is just read it as a reader would. Uh, just read it, and come up with reactions in that way, because the book is ultimately going to go into a bookstore and an unknown reader is going to pick it up. A reader that doesn't know the author, is interested in the topic. So for example, I was editing a book on past life regression, and the author asked me, "Do you know anything about past life regression?" And I said, "No, not really." But that's probably a good thing because I am curious about it and I represent your general reader. So going in with that point of view, and then obviously once you read it through and through fully, then you understand also the patterns that the writer has. So is the writer using a lot of unnecessary description? Is the writer moving through plot points really fast? Does the writer need some help in restructuring the ideas and thoughts? Is it, are they overusing some words and underusing certain things? Is there a lot of repetition? So things like that, every writer has their own pattern. So once you read a manuscript fully, you understand sort of the author's agenda and you start understanding a little bit of their patterns. Then you go page by page and you go deeper and you uncover it and you put in your comments, change things around, all of those things. So that's why even as an editor, when I speak to other editors, I say it's very hard to just do a edit of the first two pages of a book, because I would need to read the whole book, and then the first two pages actually takes up 30% of the time of an entire edit, because that's when I'm actually analyzing the patterns and things like that. So that's sort of how it goes. And then the way that one gives feedback is, when you can't just say I don't like something. That's not helpful feedback. Helpful feedback is when you suggest something to the writer which is backed up by an argument, the reason why you're giving this feedback, and also a suggestion. So that is helpful feedback versus just saying something like this doesn't work. Everybody must have heard of the feedback burger as well. And those are certain things that it's very important to keep in mind, because as you said, this is someone else's work. And they're very close to it. So the way you give feedback has to be in a way that is super, super constructive and helpful. And there are times when the writer will really love the feedback and take it on board, and some, maybe one or two comments, they'll argue back, but that you should be able to open up that conversation. So that is sort of how the editorial
Wonderful.
process.
So, you know what, with tools like ChatGPT, Grammarly, and even novel writing assistants now widely accessible, editing is becoming more tech-enabled, right?
Yes.
Um, so, are these tools really helping or harming the craft? And do you really see them as aids for editors and writers, or as shortcuts that really risk diluting the originality and the voice? So there's such a debate that everybody's talking about ChatGPT and the usage of all these aids. What are your thoughts on this, Tara?
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting question and super, super relevant. I think one thing is that I see it as a challenge and an opportunity. So, in terms of the opportunity, because AI defaults to the median, right? Because it's already taking data that's existing and it's regurgitating that kind of thing. So, especially for fiction, I see this as an opportunity because writers can really now differentiate and be even more creative, with their language, with their storytelling, come up with new ideas. That is the role of the artist. So definitely in terms of fiction, I see it as an opportunity. In terms of non-fiction, yes, I can do a lot of the research for you. It can help you with the structure of the book, all of those things. But at the end of the day, the putting it together, I think, is something that an AI can't do. So I feel one should use AI as a tool. It is a little scary, especially for, I've heard a lot of designers are being laid off because it can do a lot of the design work and
Yeah.
things like that. And AI can obviously write, content, it can write LinkedIn posts, it can write SEO articles, all of those things. So that is where I think that your own earned wisdom, your own experiences, and your own creativity, and the way that you put things together is very important. That thoughtfulness that a human can bring in, that maybe an AI can't. So for example, I also use AI, especially for, I have my own podcast, for books that we're helping to ghostwrite. We record all of the interviews and then we use AI software to transcribe it versus, somebody who would have to listen to all of the interviews and then type it out word by word.
Yeah.
Sometimes, when there's a book about a particular topic, and obviously the author has something new to say, but I need to do background research to get up to speed. That kind of stuff is really helpful. So I feel like I don't know the answer yet. I wouldn't have an answer for you. I do feel like it's a threat. It's also an opportunity. So I think only time will tell what it turns out to be.
I think it's an opportunity, and eventually, I mean, emotions are not something that AI can really take over from us.
Correct.
So I don't think one should be really worried about it, and one must embrace all the new things that's coming. It'll only help us, produce
100%.
quicker, better. So you
Yes.
launched Bound at a time when India really had no infrastructure, for creative professionals. So what was the gap that you were seeing, and how did, your vision, let's just talk about your vision that you set out with, and how did your personal experiences as an editor shape the business model for Bound?
Yeah, so I mean, when I started Bound, I had worked, in a couple of media houses and publishing houses, and I had also seen that there's a lot of really great authors, really great writers, uh, and a lot of aspiring content creators, and there was really no infrastructure for them in India. And I saw a lot of them even applying for scholarships and trying to go abroad. And I said, why don't we have any of this here? We have award-winning authors, we have, amazing people here. The gap that I saw was that there was no linear pathway. Like there is
Mm.
always a linear pathway for conventional careers, like becoming a doctor, an engineer, you know what to do. But
Yeah.
in these new age you would also know as like podcaster, or becoming a content creator or a writer or an author. There is no linear pathway. We don't
No.
know, it's all evolving. So that was a gap I saw, and I said, okay, I'm an editor. I love helping people put their stories out into the world. That's my passion. So that's how Bound was born, because basically I want to help all aspiring writers build their skills. So basically we do two things. One is we have an academy vertical, and one we help create content for others. So in the content vertical, I wanted to help aspiring writers edit and put their books out into the world, and also help people who are not writers but have very, very interesting stories, reach publishers and tell their stories, because you have your own wisdom. Like I said, you have your own experiences, new ideas to put into the world. Right, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a writer. Also, a writer can help you hone those ideas and put it out into the
So
world.
would you say you're also a literary agent?
So in some cases, yeah, for nonfiction especially, we've launched a new imprint called Moments. So in that case, yes, we are now, taking books from founders, etc., to publishers. So focusing on nonfiction and a little bit of fiction. But in terms of the academy vertical, what I really wanted to do there was also the same agenda, which is to help everybody tell their stories. So we upskill writers on,
What are the
we
things that you do to upskill writers?
yeah, so we pair them with, award-winning authors. We have writing classes, courses, retreats. We have a publishing course, because I actually attended a publishing course, which really helped me and helped me gain the skills that I have as an editor, and helped me understand the whole publishing ecosystem, and connected me as well with a lot of publishers. But that was an international publishing course, and I saw that okay, nothing like that exists in India. So we started this publishing course, and then we decided, to get in around 50 faculty from the publishing industry. So we have editors who worked at HarperCollins, Penguin, we have book designers, book to screen agents, heads of magazines like Condé Nast and Vogue. So if you are a creative professional who wants to enter book and digital magazine publishing, I'm trying to create a little bit of a pathway for you, which, we didn't have.
So why haven't you and me met in so long, Tara, in doing all of this? This is what I'm looking for.
Really?
Of course, absolutely.
Oh my God. So we must connect after this and
Have
chat
to.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see our paths like really intertwining in so many spaces, totally.
Oh, that's amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Tara. So, in your experience, what does strategic storytelling really look like today? How is it different, from just content marketing or public relations? And how can brands use stories to actually stand out in this really overly crowded digital landscape?
Yeah, no, it is definitely very
It is
crowded.
extremely.
Yeah, but I think that, brands are more and more using storytelling as a business model.
Yeah.
So we're seeing companies like Whole Truth Foods, really harnessing the power of content to build their brands. We're seeing even venture capital. We've worked with a few venture capital firms on, using content to attract more founders and putting their own wisdom out there in terms of books. We are working with an educational institution right now because everybody has so much knowledge, right? And if you have that own wisdom, then why not put it out there in the world? It should not be, I think it should be sort of thoughtfully done. That's why I really like Whole Truth Foods example. If it's just you're churning out SEO articles and things, of course that has a purpose, but that's not going to really help you with the brand building. That USP, that community that you're building, that is very particular to you, that is very important. For example, in Bound, we have a really great community of writers because we are all about sort of helping people tell their stories. So if you see even our podcast, Books and Beyond, it's interviewing authors who've done it before and talking about their writing process. Or even on our Instagram, we're giving tips. So we have a WhatsApp group where we're giving resources for free a lot of the times, on publishing, on writing, etc. That's what draws people to us. That's how we are using content to build our community, and grow as a brand. So I think that I'm seeing a lot of companies actually go this community building route, and the way to do that really is to give very thoughtful, engaging content that is actually helpful, that is not chat gpt generated. For example, the Whole Truth Foods newsletter, every week they have a different expert writing on a topic. And this is not something I can Google. I often ask myself, okay, for example, um, how do I know a protein powder is safe? So it would actually break it down for me, with an expert that knows exactly what they're doing. So that's what I think, is really important. And also in terms of building your own legacy, because a lot of people are thinking about that as well. In terms of, it's not only about the company, but it's about your personal brand, and that's become a buzzword as well. I think books are a great way to build your personal brand versus vis-a-vis, just a lot of social media content, because a book is something which distills all of your content, all of your ideas in one place. It's a very meaty product, and you can use all of that content that you've written in the book, and you can then refurbish that onto other social platforms. But it's an immediate legacy builder. It immediately positions you as somebody who knows what they're doing, who's an expert, and who's taken that time out to collate all their thoughts and put it together. Social media, I'm not discounting social media. I'm on social media. That, you put something and it disappears. But a book is more timeless in that way.
Yes, it is. It is. Absolutely. Publishing in India still operates within a tight circle of known agents, right? Editors and platforms. And this is
Yeah.
really tight. To
Yeah.
break into it isn't easy. So, do you think the industry is like really gate kept, And, and, is it a bad thing?
So I feel like any industry, you know, is hard to enter. I mean, just because of the numbers, because the number of books that we see a lot of books in the market, but that's only a fraction of the books that are actually getting pitched to these publishers. There's 10x or even 100x or more of these books and proposals coming into publishers every single day, and the publishers have a very, very, very small team. So I don't think, I think yes, it is definitely hard to get in touch with an editor, but I don't think it's because of gatekeeping as much as it is because of the market. Because these people have very little time. They want to champion books. They are readers. But can they get to every single manuscript that is sent in? No. Which is why things like literary agents in India have really picked up, which is why even we've decided to now agent select books, right? We believe in, because we have that connect to the writers and the community on the ground level, that many of these publishers, because of the business model and the way they operate, do not. Um, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do feel, that people want to know about how this process works, just because there's so many people that are
Yeah.
going for it. And that's why communities like we exist. We also have another podcast where we interview people in the publishing industry and talk about how to pitch your book, all of those things, the publishing costs, all of those things are an attempt to demystify the industry a bit. So if you say, is it gate kept, I would say not sort of, in any sort of, I think it's just a factor of the way the numbers operate and the market operates. I don't think it's very intentionally gate kept. And that being said, I do know a lot of writers who want to know more about it, which is why even you see publishers, like all the faculty who even come on our course, they want to, if they want to engage with the writing community. It's not like they don't. So if there are platforms where, say, they can come on a podcast, talk about it for an hour, and then go back to their day jobs, right? Or come and after work, maybe come and teach a course, then they would be more than happy to do that. But they're not building for that.
So, publishing, like we were talking about, it's like, it's a very tight circle. Now, you've also ghostwritten for very top, for top founders and
Yeah.
celebrities. So, how do you feel about books becoming brand extensions that we just spoke about rather than authentic work? And do you
Hmm.
ever feel bad that, the reader won't get to know who's written the book? How does it
Actually,
work?
I think that more and more I'm seeing like that people are okay with giving their ghostwriters a credit, and I would really vouch for that as well. Because why not, right? As I mentioned, writing and the expert who's the founder, they're very different skill sets. The founder has done something amazing in their life, but that doesn't mean that they have to be the best writer. And I don't think there's any shame in not
Yeah,
being the best
absolutely.
writer either. It's a different skill set. What is the writer doing? The writer is taking all of your experience, all of your anecdotes, what you want to say to the world, and shaping it into a narrative that is easy for people to consume. So I don't think there's any shame in sort of you know like hiring a writer or anything like that. And there's no shame in either, in also crediting the writer. And I think I do see that changing bit by bit. It's slowly happening. At least in the West, we see it happening. We're seeing it happening a little more here as well. So I would really vouch for that. And in terms of the reader knowing who really wrote the book, I think the reader is coming for that founder or the celebrity, right? That book would not exist if it wasn't for them. So
Yeah, so it's
yes,
a two-way thing,
y-
between the person who's giving you the
yeah,
work of doing this and the person who's writing it.
yeah,
Yeah, so now we see many social media influencers, landing book deals, right?
yes, yes,
Often skipping the queue. And
yes.
is it just smart marketing or does it really dilute the idea of what an author is? This is a question that really keeps,
Hmm.
I keep thinking about it because in India there are so many authors who do such amazing work, but you see that they are not able to land that deal. And, somebody who's got a great social media, number, they can get a deal quicker than them. So, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I understand where the concern, because someone's obviously a writer is a writer, they're honing their craft, they're really thinking about it, they spend years on it, and all of that. They struggle. Like Michelle from my team, I've seen her evolution. She's now got a book deal with Westland. Her second book is getting pitched by someone else. But she really, took the hard route by really, getting published in over 70 journals and keeping at it and educating herself and things like that. So I totally understand the concern. I do think that publishers still have space for debut fiction, and they still have space in their list for fiction. Even though obviously the focus is a little bit more right now on nonfiction. It isn't that, these books, there's no market for them, because at the end of the day, the reader defines what the publishers will put out. It is a
Yeah.
business at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, it's a product that they're selling.
It is the demand of the reader. The reader wants, books by influencers. The reader is going to get those books. If the reader wants books by the writers and the artists, they are going to get that. So I think it's on the readers also that, if we want to support different kinds of books, and we should be picking those up. We should be reading translations, we should be buying from independent bookstores, and we should also, as readers, because I'm a reader, right, we should support that ecosystem as well. So that's, I think, yeah, my answer.
So, in a world of reels and short form content, that really dominates attention span. And so, what do you think is the future of long form writing and literature?
I don't think that's going away anytime soon. If you look at the numbers, publishing in India is growing. Yesterday I had a meeting with a top publisher, and their business is growing year on year. I feel books are making a comeback.
Yeah, they are.
I'm a part of so many book clubs that I can't keep track. I know of so many book clubs that I want to join. I see, the festivals are full of book lovers, the kind of
Mm.
sales that these festivals do, the kind of book launch, the turnout at book launch events. So I feel like everything can exist, right? For the people who want to, watch movies and OTT of Netflix, the books will always remain a part of that. And every new technology, the publishing industry said, oh, books will die, books will die. But I think that's something that is in our culture, and that it will remain in our culture.
It
So
will. Yeah.
I
I
don't
also
see that
believe
as
that.
a, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So
yeah.
let's just talk about literature festivals, in India. I
Okay.
mean, that's really exploded in number, and over the past decade, and every place is, in some cities there
Hmm.
are like 3 or 4 different literary festivals. So are they really serving the writers and readers beyond, the metros? And what are your thoughts on all these literary festivals that are taking place? And I know
Hmm.
two authors, I think Amitabh Ghosh and also Arundhati Roy. She doesn't go for any of these literary festivals.
Hmm.
So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, see, I like the fact that there's a lot of literary festivals. I do feel that, it's still very metro centric. And, they're big publishers. I feel like there's a little more space for more indie regional debut authors at these festivals, more visibility for poets, translators, things like that. Definitely, like, I feel like that, there should be more of a platform for that. So I think that literary festivals are great, because why not celebrate the power of the written word and get people together who love books and exchange ideas, things like that. Like, it's better to have literary festivals and not have them at all. Can
Yeah.
we have more of them? Can we be more inclusive? Yeah, sure, we can do that. So yeah.
How do you see Indian publishing evolving, in the next 5 years? That'll be wonderful for our listeners to know from you.
I feel like one thing that I've noticed in Indian publishing is that there is more and more a focus on the marketing experience of the book as well. Things like a great book cover, things like a blurb, all of those things really matter as well. And I feel like the author also has to become sort of an entrepreneur in that way.
Yeah.
Gone are the times when, you can just, yeah, you can
So sad.
take a book and then say that my job is done. Like, I mean, in all of us, we're all running businesses, creating content. You have to shout about your work, you have to take pride in your work, and you have to be like, I've done this, I'm doing these cool things, this is why I believe in my work, and talk about it. So I think that's one thing that I definitely see, that more and more author is involved. We work with a lot of authors as well.
But some
um
authors feel very shy about doing this.
yeah, so I think that I get that, like, it's so much easier, and your work should speak for itself, right? Like, we've grown up and we've always been told your work will speak for itself, and then we realize, no, your work will speak for itself, but you need to give it that push in the first few weeks of your book, for it to speak to itself. Let's reach those people that will love it so much that the word of mouth will then snowball and catapult. So definitely, I think that.
Thank
And
you,
then,
Tara, for saying this, because I think so many authors, I too have them on my podcast, and all of them are very concerned. They are very shy of putting their work out. And I think it's very important to feel proud of the work that you've done. And
Yes.
also I think digital space has given us that whole it's democratized
Yes.
marketing for us,
Exactly.
and I think it's such a phenomenal space for us to be able to talk about the work that we do. Absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah, I feel like even I've struggled with this, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah,
is it bragging? And then I'm like, no, it's not bragging. Like, I need to talk about the things that I'm doing, and
yeah.
I feel
Who else will
everyone should.
talk for you, or
Who
else
else will
unless
talk? No one is
who
going to
else?
talk.
No one is going to talk about it unless you talk on your own.
Exactly, yeah.
And yeah, agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you, Tara.
And the other thing I think, as I mentioned before, is that literary agents, there's a trend, more and more for authors to go with literary agents because they have those relationships and
Yeah.
things like that
They
to get
also
to them,
get you a good deal.
and they get you a good deal. And the
Yeah.
third thing is that when you're pitching, especially if it's fiction, then, because editors don't have that much time, uh they're not going to be able to work with you from the first draft on. So I feel, if especially if you're pitching fiction, you can look at it as, you are pitching to the editor your final draft. So you work with somebody beforehand, develop the book a little bit, and you and give it as much as possible, as close as possible to its final edition, to give it the best shot, I think, is something that is very important to do.
So Tara, let's just do a quick round of just a single answer question. This might not be single, but then you'll have to choose your favorite author.
My favorite author. You can't ask me that. That's very hard. Oh my God.
Okay, two names.
Okay, I'll just tell you recently, like, so yeah, two names. One, I really like this author called Akhil Sharma. He's written A Family Life, he's written short stories. I love his style of writing. And I really like Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, and just read the Project Hail Mary. I really like him. Um, yeah,
Most
one Indian, one
underrated Indian
international.
author.
Yeah, I would say Akhil Sharma.
One thing you wish every creator knew.
Talk about your work.
What's one editing mistake you see even experienced writers constantly make?
I think if it's not needed for the story, it shouldn't be there. So even if it's a really lovely sentence, a really unique way of putting a thought forward, if it's not moving the narrative forward, or story forward, or uncovering bits of the story, then maybe it doesn't need to be.
Thank you so much, Tara, for being on today's episode with us. It was an absolute honor to have you. And when I
Thank you.
began my writing journey, I had attended one of your
Yes, I
workshops.
remember that. Yes.
Yeah, and that was long, long, long back. And
Yes.
I remain, grateful for those hours that I'd spent. And thank you so much for being on
Thank
today.
you so much. It was really lovely being here and talking about books with you.
Thank you, Tara.